Hi everyone, my name is Abby Morris. This is my Module 5 topic analysis, and I'm going to be talking to you about community schools. So let's start by talking about what our kids who are coming from high poverty areas are facing. Research shows that they have problems with chronic absenteeism, loss in their learning time over summer vacation, and high dropout rates. Research shows that there are equity problems between our children that are living in poverty and their middle class peers. So I found this quote and it describes so much of so many of my children and what it's like to work with them and work in high poverty communities. Research shows that low income families regularly experience economic and material hardship, things like missed rent, utility shutoffs, inadequate access to health care, unstable child care arrangements, and food insecurity are just some of the experience that our kids are going through, and that's definitely affecting their readiness, attendance performance, and their completion rates at school. And for those of you working in high poverty areas or who have worked in high poverty areas before, all these issues probably sound very familiar to you and very common to your children. So what can we do? As educational professionals, I think we all would agree with this, that there needs to be a systematic change to help students whose needs are not being met by our educational policy and practice. So basically, we need to do something different and it needs to be big. These need to be whole-scale systematic changes instead of continually trying to put band-aids on, life-size gashes. So that led me to community schools, especially when I was reading Diane Ravitch's book, and she mentioned community schools many times. And so I looked more into these. And what they aim to do is to integrate academic, health, and social supports with youth and community development strategies. So they use resources, all different types of community resources, to bolster students' learning and strengthen their families and promote healthy communities. So it's no longer just about school, just about academics. It's truly a whole community and whole family experience. Community schools are used as a strategy for organizing the resources of the school and the community around student success. And so it gives access to kids of all different types of resources. And it's things that will help the kids to be more successful in school. So why do community schools? What makes them different? Well, the partnerships is something really big with community schools that I read over and over again in my research. It's a partnership between the school and other community resources that you would not usually get in a school setting. So you coordinate services that would traditionally be offered from a variety of places, and then community schools seek to ease the access to support. So instead of like a fragmented, you go here for this type of support, for health services, you go here for dental services, here for financial literacy service, they would all be provided through the school. And so the access would be kind of like one-stop shopping, like a superstore for community life. Community schools really focus on social and emotional health for our kids because strong support of social and emotional health serves to support the learning process. So, as most of us know, classroom environments are positively influenced when there are opportunities to interact with parents and community members who take interest in what they're doing. So, it really brings the community to our kids. All that the community has to offer our kids, and all that our kids have to offer the community. Community schools can facilitate these opportunities and provide access to care. So schools become the center of the community, but that means that no two community schools are alike. So what a community school would do when starting and throughout their process is take stock of what a school needs, what the community needs, and then they respond and provide the services based on the individual needs of those communities. So those could be services like social emotional health, it could be financial literacy services. So I found all kinds of things all over the country that people are doing community services, just a small list, but dental care, mental health counseling, financial literacy, expanded learning opportunities was a big one, especially after school and summer. Performing arts classes, summer camps, technology workshops, sports, and other recreational activities. So just a wide variety, and again, it's based on the needs of a specific community, and it cannot be standardized. It's not a one size fits all. It's a response to a community's needs. Community schools are based on the developmental triangle, which would be a strong instructional program, so that's your curriculum and instruction, expanded learning opportunities through enrichment, so getting into your art and your sports camps, having before or after school tutoring, things during the summer, just opportunities for our kids to have some enrichment that maybe their middle class or upper class peers are already getting just in their everyday life in their families. And the services are designed to remove the barriers to students' learning and healthy development. We all know that every child can learn and every child has the potential, but not every child is given the opportunity and the same level of access. And so I loved how the Children's Aid Society said that we're trying to remove barriers from students' learning and healthy development to let them flourish and let them live up to their potentials and learn to their potentials that they already have. So here's a picture of the developmental triangle. So you see right there in the middle, you have the child in the center and the family and the community, and then they're kind of surrounded by this triangle of comprehensive support services, core instructional programs, and expanded learning opportunities, and it's all integrated throughout. But again, the child is at the center, the family is at the center, and then the community is encasing it. So community schools provide access to services. Now that might sound like a small thing. I'm sure not to any of you because you're educators and you know how difficult it is for families, especially families that don't have the same level of resources. So this community schools will provide people with the opportunity to get all the services they need or most of the services they need in one place, which helps us to coordinate care and to focus in on the mission of a school or a community, and everything should be integrated. Goals of the community schools are to focus on education, to have school, family, and community engagement, and then another big one, like we talked about earlier, is to extend the hours and expand learning opportunities. So here's Brick's essential supports, and this was mentioned several times in the literature that I read about community schools. So the foundation of student success, and they all lead up there to student success, is the student-centered school climate, high-quality professional development for educators, coherent aligned instruction, and meaningful parent and community engagement. And the big word there, of course, is meaningful parent and community engagement. So right now, you know, even our school, that's a career and technical school, so we do have a lot of outside businesses that work with our school. We're still very cut off, and our kids are very cut off from the community at large, and we're pretty cut off from our families as well. And so community schools really focus on laying that strong foundation, all of which lead up to the student success. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the history of community schools because it sounds kind of so outrageous. I've mentioned them to a few of my family members and friends. They're like, wow, that's so cool. What a neat idea. What a cool concept. But really, the history of community schools goes way back. So beginning in the late 1800s with the first urban settlement houses, um, they started like little community centers there, which offered critical learning and development opportunities as well as health and social services. And this was specifically for newly arrived immigrants in urban neighborhoods. So they were attempting to teach children and provide them basic academic skills while also encouraging health and encouraging integration into American society. And John Dewey, of course, always going back to John Dewey, said all the way back in 1902 that public schools were not doing enough and needed to integrate more comprehensive resources to support our kids. So community schools today, there's about 5,000 schools in 44 states, and they're all over, but mostly, most of the ones I read about were kind of in larger urban districts. They serve approximately 5.1 million students. So the movement of community schools really has grown, especially since the Obama administration came on board because of Secretary Duncan, former Secretary of Education Arne Duncan, who is a big community school advocate. And as the superintendent of schools in Chicago, really encouraged the development of community schools, and there's been quite a bit of money and funding. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the politics behind the funding. They're competitive, and some of the funding comes through the Race Through the Top stash of cash. But with that said, community schools have really gotten a big boost over the last 8 years because of President Obama and Secretary Duncan. So Marty Blank, who's the director of the National Coalition for Community Schools, said that what seems clear is that the Obama administration is trying to break down the false dichotomy between standards, testing, and teacher quality and the other array of supports and opportunities young people need. So young people need support, and they need opportunities for enrichment to support standards, testing, and teacher quality. Like, all of those things can be integrated. They're not actually separate, which is how we usually treat them. And Marty Blank says that's a big goal of the Obama administration, that they're very committed to community schools because of it. So I looked around at a lot of community schools to try to give you a really good example. And my favorite one by far was Schools Uniting Neighborhoods Community Schools. And these are in Oregon, and it's called the SUN, Schools Uniting Neighborhoods, SUN Service System. And what the school does, their mission is to lead educational success and family self-sufficiency through an integrated network of social and support services for youth, families, and community members to ensure families are healthy so they can champion and support their children. And I just absolutely loved the last part of that mission statement. We're trying to integrate all of these supports so we can champion and support our children. And I thought that was so very powerful, and it seems like the Sun Service community schools definitely are doing that. So some of the things that they do, their goals are that children are ready to enter school before they're 5, so before kindergarten. So they also have preschools and nursery schools. Their goal is academic success, as well as healthy kids and families, prosperity, and creating a desirable place to live in their community. So the services were so vast, and that little graphic you saw of the Sun Service System, it's actually kind of like a database for their school system that you can go into, and you can look for services that you need and sign up and kind of coordinate your care that way. And it also gives them feedback on what the community needs, and so they can reevaluate and coordinate their services a little bit more. So they include before and after school care with meals provided. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're open that late. I know most of us have free and reduced breakfast and lunch, but they actually have dinner open as well. Year-round, 365 days a year, health and wellness care. They also provide county services through the school, and they have business partnerships. So if you need something specific from the county, whether that be something that they mentioned was pretty popular, was a nutritional meal support, food support program. And that all, like, you used to have to go to a different building to get what you needed for that in a different location. And that all is located within the school, and all of that care is coordinated. And they actually, it kind of gets a little complicated, and the research shows that was kind of their issue, is that the care does get a little complex because you have the school system, and then you have another person who is over the actual, like, community school part that provides, that coordinates providing the access to the actual the care and all that other stuff, the health care and all of that. So it gets a little complicated because you have a lot of different entities working, but definitely worthwhile, and they've had some great success. They had a tiny little hiccup in about 2007 when they had to cut their funding a little bit, but the community had such a large backlash because of that they actually reinstated the funding that was going to be taken away, because this is such a center of that community, and it really supports everyone, and the whole community rises with it.